What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. Today I'm going to be joined by Kyle from Hotshot Secrets, and I wanted to chat with him about winterizing our trucks and getting prepared with the fuel side to be able to avoid gelling and other issues when the temperatures start to drop. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with him today. I want to remind you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, make sure and hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. Definitely helps us reach more diesel truck enthusiasts who might be curious about this very topic or some of the other ones that we discuss on the podcast. And there's been a huge influx of you guys that are new subscribers. We appreciate your support. And if you guys have any recommendations or questions you want me to ask to a guest or about a topic, make sure and drop a comment below. We always check those, see what you guys have for questions, thoughts. We love hearing your opinions as well. So if you have some tips on this episode or any of them that we release, make sure and drop a like and a comment on the video, and we look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. I also want to give a shout out to Kershaw Knives. We appreciate their support and them offering a unique discount code just for you guys. If you use code DIESEL20, you get 20% off site-wide at kershaw.kiausa.com. It's a great way to save some money if you're in the market for a knife for EDC, the outdoors, at work, around the house. They got a ton of choices, really, for any budget that's out there. So if you're in the market for a knife, definitely make sure and head on over there, take advantage of the discount codes that they're offering just to you guys. All right, let's get to today's episode with Kyle from Hotshot Secrets and chatting about ways to prevent fuel gelling and help our truck run the best it can once the temperature drops. Kyle, welcome back to the Diesel Podcast. I love chatting with you about fuel and additives, and there's so much that I learn. I know our audience does as well. And now that we're heading into winter and most of the country is going to start getting cold and snow, I thought it'd be great to chat with you about products that we can use to help us, when those temperatures do drop. And I know there's tons of things that happen with fuel starting to gel, or maybe we just want to be proactive and avoid that happening. So welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Patrick. Always love coming on with you, so I appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, I did an episode recently with the shop owner. We were kind of chatting about this, and it came up, and I wanted to really go into detail with you about it. And I think there's a few different types of truck owners out there. There's ones who are going to be proactive with it, and they're going to want to run, the best product that they can to avoid this situation. There's others who are going to be aware that, or maybe they've had fuel gel in the past, and it's like they're thinking, okay, I should probably do something. And then there's ones that just won't. Maybe they don't live in a cold climate. They're traveling through it, and then all of a sudden they find themselves, stuck on the side of the road or in a parking lot one day because the fuel did gel. So I wanted to kind of touch on those three topics. So if you could kind of walk us through the basics of what do I need to do as a diesel truck owner to avoid like a fuel gel situation and be proactive with it.
Great question. And we get it all the time, of course. And I think the most important thing to remember, a lot of times you hear people say, well, I'm in a northern climate. I'm in a cold climate. Our fuel up here gets treated, so I don't need to add an anti-gel. And then, of course, you got guys in southern climates that normally don't have to worry about it because it doesn't get cold enough. And the most important thing out of the gate I want people to understand is that no matter where you go, getting fuel is a crapshoot. I know, Patrick, we've talked in the past when we talked about some different fuel additives about field testing we've done and how all over the market is with the type of additives that go into the fuel from the refinery to the pump. And in that world, in the fuel world, they really live by cost of fractions of pennies. So they don't have any interest to add anything extra into that fuel than they absolutely need to by law or by able to make a claim so they can sell it to a fuel supplier. They'll go right to where they need to and stop. And so you never really know what you can get. And it's one first thing we always recommend people, make sure you're going to a fuel station that's getting a lot of turnover. Fuel can start to oxidize very quickly. Diesel fuel will start to oxidize as quick as 30 days. And usually it takes about 30 days to get from the refinery to the pump. So by the time it's in the ground waiting for you, there at the station, it's already started to oxidize. And that even compounds itself when you start talking about winter time when they need a little extra additive, especially the anti-gel. So it's first most important to really try to find a location that's turning their fuel over often. Truck stops are great. Obviously, they're high traffic. But, worst case scenario, sometimes you're stuck somewhere and you got to find a little mom and pop shop that has cobwebs on the diesel pump and get kind of like, uh-oh. So there's a lot we can do to treat the fuel to bring it up to standard. And really we're just adding the additive package in there that's not there. Some people are fortunate that they have very well treated fuel from the pump. But what's unique about that is that changes day by day, by fill. So each batch of fuel coming in there is different. We've done a lot of testing at the same fuel station week after week after week after week, and we see it move all over the chart. So even the people that think I've got a great location, I know I'm getting good quality fuel. Well, you may this week, but next week it could be not so good. So the first thing to remember is it's always really a crapshoot. And as we've talked all the time, this is all about protecting your investment and these expensive fuel components in these diesel trucks. So the cost wise of the investment to protect is minuscule compared to the cost of a damaged fuel system. So it's very important to find a location that's turning over the fuel often and to be treating your fuel. There's a lot that we need to treat. We've talked in the past about the lubricity side, injector cleaning, all this stuff. But, today it's good timing. 'Tis the season. Now's the time you really need to start looking at the anti-gel properties and how that can protect you from not just fuel system damage, but literally being stranded, which is not fun. And that gets expensive because now you need to get towed and thawed out. And that's not a good day when you freeze up. So 'tis the season to look at the anti-gel properties. I always say people usually get caught up the beginning of the winter season and the very end, because they usually get gelled up when they aren't ready for it. And that first cold snap comes through, which we're kind of experiencing in Ohio right now. It just turned from summer to winter. It just skipped fall. And we had snow coming down the other day. I was like, what's going on? So, and then the second time is at the end of the year. Once you think it's all done, spring's here, and they get that one last cold snap, and people already switch back to, kind of an all season fuel, and they get caught then. So it's a perfect time for us to talk about it to the people as well.
So what can people run in this season to be able to help avoid those issues? And I think, to the other point, it is create a more consistent fuel quality because of that variance that you mentioned between different stations and even the same station on different days.
So I came prepared with a little data this time. R&D just handed it to me really quickly, so I got to kind of decipher it here. But I asked them to give me some of their testing that they've done. This is all third-party fuel analysis reports. And this first example here is from two different baseline fuels at stations here in central Ohio where we're located. And this measures all the way down to the cold filter plug point, which I'll describe here in a minute. But this is base fuel that's untreated. One actually had a cold filter plug point of negative 13.9 degrees. That's Celsius. And the other one was a negative 23.9 degrees Celsius. So you're talking about a 10-degree difference just in two different pumps literally across the street from each other on the same day. And these are very big name stations. So it's one of those things where you think, oh, both these are safe. And sometimes you make that decision of which one's cheaper today, Little do you know, there's a 10-degree window there. And that's a big difference in, how cold it is that day, if you're going to get stranded or not. So even though this fuel is treated, and this would be what you consider northern fuel in Ohio in the middle of the winter, this test was done. It goes to show that 10 degrees window there could be the difference of you being stranded or not. And then the important point I want to make, like companies like us, when we have these fuel products that, we'll make claims on them from our testing on how far they protect you. But we always have to remember is that starts from the baseline of the fuel. So nobody can say, we guarantee we're going to protect you down to negative 30 degrees no matter what. If that fuel started with protection at plus 20, you're not going to get down that far. If it was fuel that started at negative 10, yeah, we can probably get you there. So always remember that we're starting with the baseline. We're starting with where that fuel started at. And then you have the opportunity to top treat on top of that to give you that added protection. Another field testing we have here, this was done in winter of 2020. This is after treated with Hot Shot Secret product, our diesel winter anti-gel, and 3 different fuels. After our full treatment, we got the cold filter plug point down to negative 37.2 in one, negative 26.1 in another, and negative 30 in a third type. So the same treatment, the same dosage of our product gives you a different variance of protection level down to where that fuel started from. So that's another thing you got to remember for people that are, maybe shopping for product and they're looking at the labels on these bottles and the claims that they make. It's not, there's no guarantee of any particular degree temperature it's going to protect you from. What we can guarantee you is how far we can move it from where it was to where we want to go. Gotcha. So that's an important thing to also remember. Wanted to show you one more thing I got here. This is also rather than a regional test, this is kind of a national test. Of fuel that we tested from all over the country. Maryland, Iowa, New York, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, even South Virginia. And the cold filter plug point on here ranges from negative 13, negative 20, positive 5, positive 7, negative 3. There's one down to negative 25. Pittsburgh, PA had some good fuel. So that's straight from the pump. And then we did the same testing across the same stations as the months went on. And in short, we see it move month from month because obviously they're treating it more in the winter than they are in the summer. So how much fuel they had, how long they've had it, are they still on October's fuel or July's fuel if it's not a big turnover place? The take home I want to give is that it truly is a crapshoot. And we're not saying that to scare people into thinking that they need to use an anti-gel when they don't need to use it. The point is nobody can tell you how good the fuel is at the pump. Certainly not the guy behind the register at the fuel station there is going to know as well. Generally, the jobbers don't even know what's going in. So it's a blind shot. Fuel testing is very expensive. We talk a lot about oil testing here. Oil testing is relatively inexpensive, and it's a very good thing to do. Fuel testing gets very expensive, and so a lot of people don't do it because it's cost prohibitive. And even if you do it, you might test your local station, like, hey, this is where I get my fuel. But again, it's that fuel that day. And if it was really good that day, it may give you a false confidence that it's always that good. So it's very simple to treat the fuel to bring it well past the spec it came at and to give you the added protection so you're not going to be damaging your system.
I think the part that makes truck owners want to take action is the cost. And it could be that tow bill that you mentioned or just the headache of having to be towed to a shop and they clean out your fuel system, or if it progresses and damages the fuel system, and those get very expensive to be able to repair. So if I want to be proactive now, it hasn't snowed here where I'm at, but I know it's around the corner. What do I need to run to be able to help on a day-to-day basis? I haven't gelled up yet. I just want to do the best that I can to get better cold weather protection, regardless of whether or where I fuel up, here local to me.
Well, again, the most important thing is to start treating the fuel before you need to. Obviously, I've got our Hot Shots company truck. It's a 2020 Ram, 6.7 Cummins. And it was 2 weeks ago that I switched from our EDT, our every, year-round summertime formula, and I went to our winter product. And I will stay on it until the spring and until I'm well past the last scare of a frost coming to sneak up on me. So It's important to get it in there early. One thing that's important to know about an anti-gel is that it doesn't really activate until it combines with the fuel. And then if the fuel has already passed what we call the cloud point, it's too late. So if it hits you and you get that cold spell that comes in and you say, oh no, I need to go grab some anti-gel to add to my fuel. If the fuel's already past the cloud point, the impact or the performance of the anti-gel diminishes almost to the point of not even being able to help. So it's very important to put it in before that cold starts, to get it running through the system, through the fuel filter, all the way through, rails, injectors, the whole thing, and making sure you're already getting a plenty good dose of anti-gel before that fuel even starts to get cold, which that's something we should cover too. There's a few different things that we measure in diesel fuel when it comes to the cold properties to it. You got to understand that diesel fuel is, oh gosh, I'm sitting here in R&D and there's no one here, but I'm pretty sure it's roughly 60 to 70% wax. I got somebody there. It's a high content of wax inside the diesel fuel. And normally through the warm season, that's not a problem. That's just part of the components of a diesel fuel. But as it gets cold, just like we see anything else, those wax crystals inside the diesel fuel start to crystallize and they start to get sticky and they start to grow, and then they want to cling on each other and build. And what happens is once they get cold enough and they've created enough of the wax crystals formed, that's what starts getting stuck in the filter because they're too large to pass through the filter. And that's when you've probably seen some pictures, some really nasty gelled up filters. And really, it's just as simple as you're cutting off the fuel flow to the engine, and now you're stuck. So number one measurement is the cloud point. And that is literally just a measurement of when you visually can see that clear fluid start to become opaque, and it's starting to crystallize inside. So that cloud point is something that, again, you want to treat the fuel before that, because by the time the cloud point is started, there's already been a chemical reaction to that diesel fuel, and it's starting to gel at that point. So that's the first measurement, is cloud point. And then after that, you have what they call the cold filter plugging point. That's another test done on diesel fuel that measures to the point at which we've now passed the cloud point. The crystals are starting to form and build like a snowball does, and more wax formation is in the fuel, and it gets to the point where it completely covers the fuel filter and will not let fuel pass anymore. That's the cold filter plugging point, and there's a temperature put at that when you test fuel. The final test of the extreme level is what they call the pour point, and the pour point is what it sounds. It is at the point where if you had a cup of fuel and tried to pour it out of the cup, at what point would it not pour anymore? It got so frozen that it's not coming out. It's like your Dairy Queen shake when they turn it upside down and it's not going anywhere. That's bad news once you get to the pour point, So that's how we measure diesel fuel. That's how we measure the performance of an anti-gel. How far past the cloud point can we get? If a fuel starts getting to its cloud point at, say, plus 20 degrees, our anti-gel can move that down 20 degrees. If it's a 0-degree fuel, like we talked about some of the different fuels, or -5, a treatment of our anti-gel will move that 20 degrees down further past that. So it'll get you protection of a cloud point down to -25. The one we're really concerned about, obviously, is the cold filter plug point. That's the point at which, you're not going any further. And it's the same thing. The anti-gel, we're moving that bar that much farther down for that much better protection. So on a product like ours, about the best fuel you're going to see, from our testing here, we generally see maybe a -20s, low 20s, -25. We're able to move that another 20 degrees south. So you'll be protected from a cold filter plugging point with the treatment of our diesel fuel additive down to a -45 degrees. The pour point protection goes down to -60 degrees below zero. So we're talking a point where a good treatment of anti-gel can keep diesel fuel flowable in a cup down to -59 degrees, theoretically, from that standpoint. So those little markers are the benchmarkers that we measure the performance of an anti-gel.
I know from chatting with a lot of our listeners that a lot of people love running your product. And I don't know the exact percentage of the people who listen or that engage with us that do, but I know it's a lot. And so they're used to running like the EDT stuff in the spring and summer. And I just thought of a question they might ask you guys is, okay, I'm going to run the winter blend. Do I also still get those other benefits with the lubricity and the other things that you guys do, with the kind of year-round EDT?
Great question. We get it all the time. And it's actually good timing because we just launched a new winter product. So historically, a lot of people, we got some products out here. A lot of people know our diesel winter anti-gel here. This has always been our winter use anti-gel. And as you know, talking with you quite a bit, Patrick, we like to formulate all in one. We want to treat the diesel fuel as well as protect the truck and the fuel system all in one rather than have multiple products to do this. So our EDT, number one fuel seller out there, it is a 6-in-1 product. So you're getting your cetane booster, your lubricity additive, fuel system injector cleaner, a water dispersant, rust and corrosion inhibitor, and a fuel stabilizer. Well, our diesel winter anti-gel is all those things plus the anti-gel. So it's a 7-in-1. Now, we just launched our new product, which is called EDT Plus Winter Defense. So there's a couple reasons behind that. Number one, name-wise, we had some consumer issues with the name of our diesel winter anti-gel. To answer your question, a lot of people were treating EDT and then putting our diesel winter anti-gel on top of it, thinking it's just an anti-gel. So that was probably our fault, bad name on that product, not knowing it's an all-in-one product. But that being said, just like we do everything here, we're always constantly taking our stuff back into the lab, trying to improve it. And this was a good opportunity. We knew we were going to rename the product. So the lab went at it and they said, hey, can we make this product any better? It's already the number one on the market, but they don't care. They're still going at it. So we made some improvements to it as well. Now, we still carry the diesel winter anti-gel, and that's mainly because we have, big retail contracts that, they've stock up a year out and stuff. So you'll still see that in the retail stores for the rest of the winter. But probably by next year, you'll just see the new product, EDT Plus Winter Defense. So by name, we're letting you know that it still has all those great components in it that you need to protect your system and keep your lubricity up and keep the system clean. One of the unique things that we've done to the new formula is we've finally been able to add our LX4, which is our top of the line lubricity additive, which allows that product to, how do I put it? We talked in the past about how we don't use any fillers in our product. That's a good and bad thing. The great thing is you're getting 100% additive when you buy our product. There's no filler at all. However, that also means if we want to add anything to it, something's got to come out because we pack it full of additives. So one of the unique properties of the LX4 lubricity additive that we're very popular for is it's such a strong lubricity additive that we don't need as much of it to get the same or actually more performance out of it. Actually reduces wear scar even more with a much smaller dose. It's just a different type of chemistry and chemical. So when we switched the formula to now have LX4 as the lubricity additive, it opened up a little space in that formula to improve on. So one of the other issues that always happens to us every year that some of the other companies out there don't necessarily have to deal with is our diesel winter anti-gel will gel on its own. And you can imagine the phone calls we get when somebody's bought a product of anti-gel and they've got it in their truck door and here comes the cold and they go out to pour it in and the bottle's frozen. And they're like, what kind of product is this? It's going to freeze on its own and how's it going to protect my fuel? But it's like I told you earlier, it's that chemistry that happens when you blend it with the actual fuel. So we have such a raw, potent mix in there that on its own, it will gel. But once it combines the fuel, again, you'll have a negative 60 pour point protection on it. So the new product, since we are using the new lubricity additive, it opened up the chemist to put a little extra in there of a component that allows it not to gel on its own. So that was one of those things that here normally we're focused on the science and the performance of the product, but this was also an opportunity for an R&D to look at the the benefits of the consumer use of the product, and that the problem that it created with having such a strong product gelling on its own, they tackled that too. So now it's a lot more customer friendly. Let's say you can throw this in your door. We always recommend not to keep the anti-gel product below 32 degrees. Now the new one can go down to 0 degrees. We've seen it even go further without gelling on its own. So that just makes it a little bit more friendly to use. And finally, to answer one of your other questions and this one, we have 2 dosages with the new formula, which is very unique, and it makes it cost effective for somebody. So I think one of the things that I get asked a lot is, do I need to use more or less depending on how cold it is? And the truth of the matter is yeah, the more the anti-gel property you use, the more we can move that needle from that starting point of the fuel. There is a point of diminishing returns, and that's where we cap off how far we can move the fuel. But one of the great parts of the new formula is the 2 different dosages. We have a above 0 dosage and a below 0 dosage. So it's always important, if you're in a cold climate, to keep that added protection in there. But if you know it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 degrees, you can save money by going with the above 0 dosage of this product. You still get all the lubricity, the cetane, injector cleaner, all that at the same time. And then when you see the weather's going to turn and you might have a cold snap that it's going to dip below 0, you go with the stronger dosage, which will then protect you even further down as well. So we made some consumer friendliness changes too, as well as improving the lubricity and the performance of the anti-gel side of it.
That's what I really like, about chatting about this product is our audience is, well, it's international, but there's so many different climates that are involved, especially when we get into Canada and some of the temperatures that they get. And I've had some listeners say, "Hey, can you ask if you get a shop in Canada on, can they talk to us about how to prevent fuel gel?" And we see that kind of every year. It seems to be a couple cold snaps that come through where, like here in Colorado, it might be stuck at 0 degrees or 5 degrees for a week or more, and then it jumps back up to 50 degrees, and then you go on a little bit. So I like that. I like how it tackles a problem that people can have no matter what region or state that they're in, depending, how cold it does get. But one of the other things that I know is going to go along with this is somebody might listen to this podcast. They're going to love listening to us talk, but they may not do anything. They might not be proactive. And then there's going to be that morning they go to start their truck, go to work, and it doesn't start. What do you do if you didn't treat the fuel? It gels, you're stuck. You don't necessarily want to get it towed or take it to a shop. And shops are backed up too. They're working on tons of trucks. They might not be able to get to it right away. What can we do in that situation?
That's not a fun day, I'll tell you that. And we have a product called Diesel Winter Rescue, and specifically designed for that. These are a completely different formula than what an anti-gel is. You could pour all the anti-gel in that frozen fuel you want. It's not going to do anything. Once, like I said, it starts diminishing its performance at the cloud point, let alone, you're talking, we've now achieved the cold filter plugging point. It's plugged up and I'm stuck and the fuel is not flowing. How do I get it flowing again? By that point, all the anti-gel in the world is not going to help you. It's just different chemistry at that point. Vice versa, the chemistry we use to ungel you is not going to prevent gelling either. So we're talking 2 completely different chemistries, and that's just based on how that fuel gels. So I always recommend that everybody should have a bottle of Diesel Winter Rescue in their truck. I consider it like having a jack in the truck, or a toolbox or something. It's one of those things you hope you never need, but if you ever do use it, you will be so grateful you have it. It's a very affordable product. I don't have it in front of me. I think this quart bottle is, I don't know, $14, $15. It's a really affordable product. And if you've ever had to get towed and thawed out and all that, your minimum couple hundred, if not more, let alone the damage that you can potentially do to the system, dry starting, without fuel flow and everything, the compounding problems that you have from that. So it's a very affordable product. I always tell people, don't even think about it. Just spend the $15, throw it in the toolbox, hope you never need it. what I often hear back from people is, man, I'm so glad I got it. I'm like, oh, did you gel up? They're like, no, I didn't gel up. I used the anti-gel. But I saw a guy stuck on the side of the road and I pulled over and helped him out. And you're a hero when you do that, That's a quick way to make some friends, and how our diesel community is. As soon as anybody has a problem or they're stuck on the side of the road, you'll see a Facebook post and hopefully somebody can nearby come out and help and when somebody can come help you and get you rolling again for $15, it's just priceless at the time, So how the product works is we generally, what I recommend people do, it's a quart bottle size, which is generally all you need for pretty much just about any size. I shouldn't say any size, because a big semi tank you're going to need more. But your general truck size, the passenger truck that we're talking about, I put half the bottle in the fuel tank. The fuel tank, you let it sit, you let it agitate. That's going to work its way to all that gelling that's around the fuel filter and start to open that up. The good thing about most of these fuel systems, if not all, most of them have return. Once you get that fuel flowing, you're going to have a hot fuel return, and then it starts to help itself because as the hot fuel returns back to the fuel tank, it will help thaw everything out. So really, we're trying to break through that fuel filter and just get that fuel flowing again. And the properties in this type of product are meant to attack that gel. And what it's really doing is it's doing the opposite thing. We're now breaking apart the sticky arms of those wax crystals, and so they stop sticking together and starts opening up, lets the fuel pass through. If that alone doesn't work, then we take the other half of the bottle, and this is where it gets a little messy. But you pour it in the fuel filter. You actually get in there, get your frozen fuel filter out. You pour the other half in, and you let it sit and just eat up on that gel, and that always works. If it doesn't get it just in the tank by itself, and getting enough fuel to the filter, pouring it directly in the filter, you put it back on, wait a few minutes, you crank, and I guarantee you it's going to be moving again. We have the strongest one on the market to reliquefy the gelled fuel. We're literally limited by the EPA. We couldn't put an ounce more of that degeller in there. So great product. It's a cheap insurance. Even if you are religious about using anti-gel, you can be a hero to somebody by having a bottle of that in your truck when you might bail somebody out sometime.
Oh yeah, and you think of $14 to $15 to either avoid a tow bill and a headache, or help somebody out, or a lot of people have more than one diesel vehicle. There might be, a car, might be a second truck, a work truck, and then you got another one that you daily drive. So it always helps to have that on hand. Now for the shops that are out there, they like to stay proactive when the seasons change and make sure they have things there that their customers are going to need. Are they able to order this in larger quantities, to be able to have on hand there at the shop, treat vehicles, or a customer comes in and he wants 3 bottles, another one wants 5, and be able to handle kind of those larger type purchases, or there's a lot of volume going through the shop?
Yeah, absolutely. And from a retail level, our diesel winter anti-gel is available in pretty much truck stops, auto parts stores, you name it. The EDT Plus Winter Defense, the replacement, just launches this week. I think it's in Love's travel stops are starting to carry it first, and it's gonna slowly replace everything. The Diesel Winter Rescue is not available retail right now, but we sell it direct through our website. All of our products are available through our website. But more importantly to what you said, we also have a giant dealer network, and those are the real heroes of our products, because those are the ones we can work closely with. They bring issues to us. They're the ones that help us formulate and develop products even better. And they have direct access to it. So what I always tell them, it's based on are you mainly service, or are you kind of are you selling bottles out the front door, in your lobby type of thing? So we got everything. We got everything from small sample bottles, little rocket bottles that they can just keep in the truck. Our fleets that are running a bunch of trucks, we have bulk sizes to treat the bulk fuel tanks. They usually do the same thing. They switch over from the summer to the winter treatment this time of year, depending on their climate. So we can bulk treat the bulk tanks that all the trucks are filling from. A lot of our fleets have I forget what they call them, but they're almost I got one fleet that has a funny term for them, but they all have this like little lunch bag that all the drivers leave with that has all the additives they need in there. When you're talking like the rescue stuff, it's also, and as you know, obviously the larger the quantity, we can get price breaks on. So my dealers out there that do a lot of field service and maintenance, they buy this stuff by the gallons, the 5 gallon tubs, the drums, and they keep it in stock for just that use. So they're using it as on the service side. So a fuel system cleaning, if you're that guy that is gelled up and you get dragged into a shop, this is like the type of product that the shop has. They probably have it in bulk there, and they treat what they need out of it to get you thawed out and going again. So yeah, we keep it available in all sizes up to 7,000 gallon tanker truck if you want. I'll have it backed up to your shop. So we got something for everybody.
If anybody's got questions specifically either about one of those products or about any of the other products that you guys offer, what's a great way for them to be able to get in contact with you guys, ask questions, learn more, order, if they're ready, they know they need to do this, and they're ready to stock up and get ready for winter?
Yeah, hotshotsecret.com. You can buy everything directly on our website. Again, like I said, we're available in most all retailers, truck stops, farm stores, auto parts stores. We welcome phone calls. Our number here is 1-800-341-6516. If you have questions about this stuff, we don't care if you're a customer of ours. If you're a diesel owner and you have questions, we're happy to answer them. So feel free to give us a call. We'll help you to walk you through what products you might need, or if you are in a jam and you're looking to, if you thought up on the side of the road and you don't know what to do, call us. We'll help you out, and we'll do what we can to get you back on the road. And one last thing, if you go to our website, hotshotsecret.com, there's a little button that asks where to buy. And if you click that, you can punch in your zip code, and it shows you all the locations. Most importantly, all of our independent dealers out there. And I like to support the little guy, and we've got so many hardworking diesel shops out there that a lot of times you don't know that there's a diesel shop right around the corner from you that's a dealer of ours. And we work very closely with our dealers. So I recommend looking at maybe you got a small shop near you that could use the support of someone like you buying the product. So look them up.
Well, it's always awesome chatting with you, Kyle. I appreciate your time today and talking to us about how we can prevent gelling in the winter, and then also get those benefits that you mentioned with, the lubricity and the cetane and everything else. And even if we don't treat it getting a hot spot, well, we got the winter rescue there to be able to help us. So as always, it's a complete pleasure to chat with you.
Well, thanks for having me, Patrick. Anytime, man. Looking forward to coming on again.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kiausa.com. Use code DIESEL20 for 20% off site-wide. They've got a ton of choices for knives for any budget, really any use that you have. If it's something for EDC or hunting, fishing, the outdoors, at home, at work, they've got a ton of choices there. So we appreciate our friends at Kershaw Knives offering that discount code directly to you. Also want to give a shout out to a couple of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, Kaleb, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, those of you on our Discord app. I love seeing what you guys are working on, getting your questions answered by having guests on, and being able to make sure that you guys save money along the way as you upgrade your truck and get the performance out of it that you want. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.